guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoilery discussion for A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. And the crowd goes wild. So like I said, this video will have spoilers in it, so if you've not read this book, go ahead and check out my spoiler-free review, which will be linked on the screen. So like I said, this is a discussion video. I couldn't decide whether to name it a gush or a gripe, because typically speaking, a book that I'm rating above 3 stars, I name a gush. It means I like it, and I do like this. But overall, this is going to be me talking about why I didn't give it a higher rating, why I didn't give it a complete 4 stars or a 5-star rating. So it's going to sound more like a gripe. But it's not. I still liked it, but I had problems with it. Because why? I have problems with finales. Most often in the YA genre, especially because I just don't feel that they're taken far enough. I just don't feel like sacrifices are made to be really important. I feel like characters just overwhelmingly survive in really deadly situations all the time, and it's so unrealistic, and I want there to be genuine loss and like fear for the characters. It makes me feel way more connected to the story, and there isn't that in so many finales. Like, almost all of them that I've read in the last year have been like this. And I'm just really, I feel slighted, okay? I want there to be like genuine emotions, and was I like worried for them? Yeah, but then towards the end when everything started to just be like perfect and fine, and like the divine hand of God was just saving them always, I'm like, y'all aren't in trouble at all. So I'm not being very emotionally invested because y'all are gonna be fine. So let's just start from the beginning and walk through everything so you hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I really, really liked the beginning of this book. I really liked like the first third to half a lot, and I still liked the whole book, but again, I felt like it started to really falter at the end. But the first part when she's in the spring court and just doing her like devastation makes me so happy. Like, it makes me so happy. It was just, I was geeking out the entire time, just like, yes, destroy them, Thera! Like, it was great. And Tamlin's stupid, and it was just nice to see that. Also, I love Lucien. Lucien is one of my favorite characters. I loved him. Like, he was one of the saving graces of ACOWAR because I hated ACOWAR so much and I didn't like Thera back then. So Lucien being brought back into the fold and her and him having like a friendship again and being a team was like, it just warmed my heart, because I just love him, and I wanted him to like regain some of his footing, and he did, because he finally was like, yeah, I was a shitty friend, and you were never a shitty friend to me, and like, man, this sucks, and Tamlin's a douche, and like, all this stuff. So it was great. So them like teaming up finally, and her like defending him from Iantha, I think her name is, and like smashing her hand, and all of that was just wonderful and great. And just the fact that she strategized and was able to get back to the Night Court like pretty fast was nice. I'm glad that that wasn't drawn out too much, because my worry was like, oh my god, are we gonna spend half the book in the fucking spring court? Because I am not in the mood for that. Like, no, I can't be doing that. So the fact that that kind of got wrapped up quickly enough was nice. I will say though that like a little bit after she got to the Night Court, well, really when like they did the Adriata battle, I felt like her powers suddenly stopped mattering so much. Like, it was weird. I felt like book 2 really built up her powers and her learning her powers and everything, and it was kind of explained in like when they started going to like the actual battle. She was like, you know, I don't think I can handle these like actual like full-fledged battalion battles. But I just felt like her powers were like, I guess we're just not using them anymore. Like, she wasn't using them in the battles to like shield. She used them in those like city battles, which was like badass and awesome. Like, that one felt like the Valaris battle, and it was great. But like, she just like stopped using them. Like, yeah, she winnows and like she was learning how to fly and stuff, but she wasn't doing anything else with all of her other powers. And I'm like, girl, why not though? Like, can we do some more? Like, can you get in people's minds? Can you, like, what are you doing? It just felt like all of that buildup that we had from the second book was just like dropped. Because it's like, you're one of the most badass, most powerful creatures around here, and you're just gonna like sit there, like not really do anything with any of that training of those powers. Like, they were super important in book 2, and all of a sudden now they're like, yeah, she has them, and like, yeah, she's High Lady, which was awesome, and I loved every time she's like, I'm High Lady. It was great. But like, oh, why aren't we using your powers anymore? They're like super important. Okay. I will say I was revived when like Cassian and Azriel appear and like you figure out that they're fine, because I was really worried for them. But at the same time, it's like, wow, they're just like fine. Like, we didn't get to see like any of that, so they just get torn apart in the last part of the last book, and then it's just like, everyone's fine, which kind of set up for the theme of this book and the fact that like things get fixed like super quickly. I feel like the pacing was off in this book. Like I said, I think the first half or first third were like really good, really well paced. But then things started to just kind of rush, and I felt like this part of the series could have been 4 books. I know that this is a continuing series. I mentioned in my review that I know that these are going to be companion books, but this part of the story with Feyre as a protagonist, as of right now, is done. Like, the other ones are going to be companions following characters we've already met, most likely, but different protagonists. So this part of the trilogy, this trilogy, is done. So I feel like things just started to be rushed, but there was new things also being dropped in, and it was like, why are these things being resolved so quickly? Because we're almost at the end of this book, but like, then lengthen this part of the series a little bit more. Like, give it 4 books instead. Like, don't just drop these things in that are like super important and then have them resolved instantly. Like, when Elaine got taken, she was gone for like a chapter, and then they went and got her back, and it was like pretty easy. Like, yeah, was it precarious? Yeah, but like, she's gone, and then they go get her, and then she's back. Like, that should have taken multiple chapters, planning, plotting, all this stuff. In a normal part of a series, it would have. And it just wasn't. Or, like, when she went and got, like, the Ouroboros. She like, didn't do anything with it the entire time. Not at all, da-da-da-da-da. And then just goes in a chapter and gets it. And it's like, oh, we're just gonna get this, like, really powerful object and it's gonna take a chapter? A chapter? Like, all of these things that were super important were just done so quickly. This happened again and again, but those are my 2 main examples. But like, this just happened over and over, and it's like, and now this happens, and now this happens, and it's like, can you slow down a second? Like, these things should take way more time and be way more meaningful and be way more important, and they're just not. You gave a lot of stuff time at the beginning of the story and in the other books, but you're just not doing it now anymore. And this is important. This is really important. Speaking of important things, there was just so many things that were dropped in this story that I feel didn't get enough attention. And I know how companion series work, okay? Don't come at me, because I know. I was raised and birthed in the urban fantasy realm, okay? I know about companion series, alright? And the thing is that within a series, before you have a spin-off, you wrap up stuff within this part, okay? And you don't necessarily have to read companions to get more, to like figure out all the loose ends, because the loose ends are tied in the original content, and then this new companion stuff is like supplemental, it's extra, okay? But this, she just started dropping in other random things, and I'm like, okay, we're not getting, so none of this is getting resolved? Like, the Cassie and Nesta stuff's not gonna get resolved, the Elaine stuff's not gonna get resolved, we found out all this stuff about, like, Koshi and the Vasa and like all this Eastern European lore suddenly just like plunked in, and then like, you'll find out about this later. It's like, that's messy. That's messy and sloppy. Don't just throw that in here. And there's a lot of things in this book that I felt like were just like shoehorned in or thrown in last minute, or were used as like Deus Ex Machina, and were just like all the stuff with like Draken and Miriam where they just appear out of nowhere, which I knew was gonna happen, by the way. But there's just like, alright, now they're here. And it's like, where the hell did you come from? Okay, we're just gonna drop this in here? Alright, like, yeah, you talked about them in book 2, but like, Kay out of nowhere, and like her dad's armies, and like suddenly Vasa appears, and like all this stuff that was just like out of nowhere, like, yeah, it's referenced. Yeah, it's a possibility. That's why they sent Lucian over there, like, yes, obviously. But it's like, it's so, it makes things so easy, because it's just like, you know one of them is going to swoop in. They've been mentioned a ton of times, you know it's going to happen, and it's just like, you didn't even have to really fight for that. They just like, they're like, oh, we figured something was wrong, and showed up. Okay, I would have liked to see more of them. Like, I would have liked to see them a ton more. And it's like, well, maybe in the companion series. It's like, no, dude, like, it should have been in this series. Like, you should have given yourself enough time. Like, don't be like, wait for the companion. Like, no, that's not how companion series work. You don't get to just be like, we're adding extra on, so you got, no, you can't tell me, urban fantasy fan that knows about companion series, that's how that works, because it's not. There was just so many like Hail Marys that were like, oh, I guess this is just gonna save their asses. Of course it is. Of course it is. And a lot of relationship stuff, again, just glossed over. And again, I know, because it's gonna be the companion series that are probably gonna follow these other relationships, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, how many times can you just have different various slow burn romances that you're gonna follow? Like, I am here for slow burns. But like, I'm pretty certain that the next books are gonna follow Cassian and Nesta. And like, that's great and all, but like, how many times can you do this like slow burn hate to love thing? Like, you did that. You did that. And like, of all the characters, I like Nesta and she's really grown on me, but like, Nesta? Like, okay. And you barely, again, touched on her powers. She's kind of like this death goddess thing. You know how that speaks to me. And it's like, oh, we don't really know, because we're gonna say that for the next series. And it's like, come on. Stop. Like, it's just like a tease. You're just like teasing me. No, I don't know. Get that garbage away from me. And speaking of the relationships, well, let's just touch on something that makes me kind of mad. I was like, man, that feels cheap and that feels shoehorned in. And that's some stuff that we found out about Morgan, my precious baby, who I love so much. So all of a sudden, 100 pages from the end of this book, we get this bombshell that Moore is a lesbian, or really she's homoromantic, she's bisexual, she can have sex with men, she likes having sex with men, but she prefers to have romantic bonds with women. That's fine, that's great. Finally, Sarah J Maas includes LGBTQ plus characters, something that we've been begging for, so we should all be thankful, right? No, because she shoehorned it in, and you could feel that she did this as like, oh, people are telling me I should do this, so I'm just gonna do this. Because you can tell, and this is because I just read ACOWAR, reread it right before I read this one, she was setting up Moore and Azriel completely. There is no foreshadowing about Moore being a lesbian or being somebody who loves women. There's none of that. She references how the Golden Queen's ancestor was her former lover. When she meets the Golden Queen, she doesn't really like bulk at it. She isn't like feeling or showing anything about that. And we have, again, one of the problems and one of the things that people don't like about Sarah J Maas' stories is that she does make them so heteronormative. And we again have the situation where we have a main character who's coming out, but who has been closeted for over 500 years. So she's made it a thing in this story that, like, closeting is, like, necessary and being out is, like, horrible or whatever. At the same time, she has all these other characters, mostly male, who can be either bi or gay, and it's, like, fine. So it's, like, it has this weird disconnect feeling for me, because it's like, okay, you have this world where gay characters exist, and they're out and they're fine, but then you have Moore being like, I needed to be closeted all this time, and I can't even trust any of my friends who I love dearly and who I feel very, very safe with this information. It's like, bullshit. The reason that is because it was shoehorned in the last book. Like, what? And it was treated like a spoiler. Like, what the fuck? I'm so, it was treated like a spoiler, it was treated like a twist, like a plot twist, and it's like, no, I don't want this garbage. And it's like, well, you guys have always been complaining about how she doesn't have any representation, now she does. Yeah, good for her, it's progress in the right direction, but like, I don't want your shitty representation. Like, I don't want your shoehorned in, done it for like the, like, fan servicey type of representation. Like, come on, dude. And no, it's not because I really ship Moore and Azriel, which I did, but like, I would have loved if Moore was like an established queer character the entire time. That would have been great. If we would have even had like some foreshadowing of that, anything. But you can tell in the second book that that's not what she was aiming for. And then she's like, wow, I'm getting really criticized for not having any LGBT characters. Let's like stick some in there in the last minute so we don't have to really worry about it. Let's stick these like epic tales of lesbian lovers in here all of a sudden. It's like, girl, please. Yeah, are you improving? Probably. It's still a step in the right direction, but like, don't be sloppy about it. Don't be lazy about it. Don't throw it in there as like scraps to people. That's shitty. Like, yeah. So I'm really just very underwhelmed with that. Am I happy that there's queer characters in the story? Yes, obviously. Do I feel like it could have been done better? Yes. Do I feel like it shouldn't have been shoehorned in such an obvious way with absolutely no foreshadowing and really pointing towards her making Moore and Azriel a thing for the whole second book with all these quotes that, you know, he would love her, and Reese is like, you know, they've always been back and forth, and Reese being somebody who can like get in people's minds, is very perceptive of people's emotions. Like, you don't think any of these people would have noticed this, you know? You know, people would have noticed. This is where you feel most at home. You don't think that you would have felt safe to come out? Like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And she had a perfect place to put in a queer character, in that Amryn should, and in my head still is, should have been asexual. Why did you make her into having, maybe she could be like, you know, she could still have romantic relationships. Why'd you make her into this sexual character with variant at like the very end? Did I ship it? Yeah, in like a romantic way. I think that's kind of cute. Or I'm not even, like, I didn't really even ship it that much. Like, I preferred Amren as the ace character, and you could have had some like really stellar ace rep, and you decided to just shoehorn her into a relationship, into a sexual relationship, when like everybody knows, even in the fandom, all the memes I see are Amren being like, I have no feelings. Like, everyone knows that's how she is. And then you suddenly say, like, out of nowhere that Moore is a lesbian character, or Moore prefers to be with women. And it's just like, you didn't write it. You didn't write it properly. Like, it's just, And she does this, and this is one of the problems that I had, and one of the problems I had with ACOWAR, is that she just, like, changes things about characters suddenly, like, out of nowhere, and it's like, that's not character development. Please stop making queer characters into a fucking plot twist. Like, that, we don't want that garbage, okay? Will I love Moore, and I hope she finds a wonderful, beautiful woman to be with? Yes, obviously, but like, don't stick it in at the end as like a monologue. I'm annoyed. And it's not, again, it's not because my ship can't sail or anything like that. It's just like, man, you just threw people scraps because you know people complain about it, and like, it's like you didn't even try. So I kind of felt very meh about the ships in here. Before that even happened, you know, I was still shipping Moore and Azriel, like, completely throughout the story, as I have. I like Cassian and Nesta, but again, it's not something that pulls at me the way that, like, Feyre and Rhys did, you know? And then I'm not sure what they're even doing with Elaine and Lucien, and, like, Elaine and Azriel now, maybe, which is really out of nowhere, and I'd really kind of hate the, like, dark and brooding falls for, like, Flower Princess. Like, I'm just, And you've built up this whole mate bond thing. And I would like to see that explored elsewhere, where it's like, okay, you don't have to be with your mate and everything else. But like, it's been built up so much, that it's like, well, you can't build that up as like this penultimate, nothing is above this perfect mating bond, and then be like, mates don't matter, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just want Lucien to be happy. It doesn't mean that Elaine has to like do, you know, that and that she's like a prize or anything, but I'm just like, this feels messy, and like, why is Amren with anybody? Why is she with It doesn't matter. Like, yeah. Are Faye and still my OTP? Yeah. It made me very happy to see them together and to just conquer the world together. But everything else is just kind of like. And lastly, let me just talk about the ways that I felt like this didn't go far enough, and that my typical problem with finales, they just don't take it there. YA in particular, finales don't take it there and are afraid to kill off characters, and I don't need to necessarily have character death, but in a situation like this, in a crazy, crazy war zone where characters are falling left and right and everything else, it is really unreasonable to have everyone end up okay or resurrected. And let me tell you how much I hate resurrection plots. Like, a lot, because I feel like they cheapen the deaths so much when you can just bring someone back like that. And did I want any of those characters to die? No. Do I want any of the characters to die? Like, really? No. But I want sacrifices to mean something. This whole story is about sacrifice and working as a team, and her being like, Rhys, you can't keep sacrificing yourself, we're a team here, all this stuff. But you make all of the character sacrifices be just work out perfectly. And it's like, that's not how wars work. Alright? That is not how wars work. All of these top friends, top people who are in the thick of it, make it completely, basically unscathed. Like, even Rhys's death scene is just like, he's dead for like 3 paragraphs. Like, So as these things start happening and as these sacrifices end up being like for nothing, I start realizing like, oh, these characters aren't in danger, and I'm like losing my emotional investment because I know they're gonna be fine. Like, especially at the very end where she like kills off Rhys. Everyone knew they were gonna be fine. Like, everybody, like, I thought maybe Amren was for sure gone, and that was like a really good sacrifice. You know, like, she unleashes herself and she destroys everything. And that should have been met with, you have to die. And she's back. And she's high fae. And it's fine. And I'm just like, no, that's not how sacrifice works, and you can't just like fix everything. That's oh, it's not how it works. Like, it just bothers me, and it just cheapens everything. It cheapens a sacrifice, it cheapens death, it makes it like, oh, this just doesn't matter. You know, Rhys dies, and it's like, everybody resurrects him with the same kind of, like, High Lord thing, except for he doesn't take any of their powers, and it's just like, oh, that was just perfect. How does that work out? It works out, and then everything's fine. And then he acts like nothing's wrong. Like, he doesn't have any kind of, like, ramifications of that. Like she even references it. He's sitting there later, like, whatever, you know? What? Everything's just fine now? And Amren, he just kind of helped pull her back from the void, too, like, and everyone's good. And, like, Cassian and Nesta are fine. Like, I love that Elaine and Nesta are the ones that killed the king. Like, that was badass. But, like, everyone's fine. All these sacrifices don't matter. And everything's fine. And if anything, just really minor characters die, like the Bone Carver goes, which is like, oh. And like the Serial, and like their dad, who doesn't even have speaking lines. So like, does that matter? No. Is it sad? Not really, because you don't even have any investment to them. None of them die. None of them, I mean, they're more in danger. I felt more like pull for them at the end of ACOWAR than I felt in any of these battles, because I was like, they're gonna be fine. She's not gonna kill any of them, because she can't take it there. She doesn't have the ovaries. Like, come on, dude. Like, take it there. Take it there. Like, these world-ending battles, people die in them. Important people. That makes sense. Don't cheapen these sacrifices and don't cheapen death. I am so fucking sick of it. So when that started happening, I was like, here we go again. Another YA fantasy that just pulls up short and doesn't meet expectations, and is just like, alright, we're not gonna go anywhere messy, because we can't have it being messy. We have to have all these characters be fine, because I love my characters too much that I can't have anything bad happen to them. They get healed instantly. Like, any really horrible wounds are, like, healed instantly, because it's magic, and it's fine. It's just like, I'm sick of seeing it. I don't know what finale is going to eventually revive me, but something does, because it's just, I'm just sick of it. Take it there, guys. Get your hands dirty. It's fine. It makes it more satisfying when you do that. It makes it more realistic, makes it more satisfying, it makes it more, like, emotional. I have an actual investment in the characters because I don't know what's gonna happen to them. Like, come on, man. I can reference this because it's a perfect example. One of the reasons I'm so connected to the Mass Effect series is because there is genuine character loss that is sometimes avoidable and sometimes not, and it wrenches my heart out of my chest in a positive way, and makes me really, really, really connected to the characters, really invested in them, trying everything I can to save them, etc., etc. That level of investment I don't get when finales pull back like this and just don't go there. And I want to go there with them. I want to be emotional. And I'm not. I did like that there was a lot of characters that I wasn't expecting to like, and then did. Like Jurian actually being, like, cool, and, like, Helion and stuff like that. Not being an ass, and being, like, the world's best bisexual. And just, like, just awesome. That was fun. And I wasn't expecting that. I actually used a Goodreads update to be like, there's characters that I thought I'd hate, and I actually love them. So overall, I enjoyed this book. I still think it was a decent finale because, again, I have a problem with finales. I knew going into this that I was most likely not going to like it as much as ACOWAR. I went into ACOWAR with extremely low expectations because I hated ACOTAR, and I was only reading ACOWAR because it was a Hades and Persephone retelling, and that's it. And then with this book, I was like, you know what? No matter how low I try to put my expectations, I'm probably not going to like it as much because ACOWAR went so well because I had such low expectations. So I knew going into it that my expectations were already going to be probably too high, and that I also just wasn't going to like it as much because it's a finale. And even with that, I was still left disappointed in that it didn't live up to the potential that it set, and just didn't tie up enough things, and just made things kind of messy, and just did some really kind of messy character development, you know? Will I continue to read the series? Probably. It depends on who she decides to follow. If she follows Nesta and Cassian, probably. I think that's where she's going. Like, she developed them the most, I'd say. So I'm pretty sure that's where she's going. I'd like to see some prequel stuff with, like, Miriam and Draken and stuff like that. But, like, yeah, that's cool. She added in cool stuff I like Death Gods. Like, yeah. But, again, it just didn't go far enough. Man, like, I just give me more. I don't know what finale is going to revive me, but I hope one does soon, because I'm always just left like this, like a little, like, sad blob. And not in a good way. I want to be a good sad blob. I want to be emotionally devastated, like I can't read anything for days, you know, because I'm just so emotionally wrapped up in this, and I just wasn't. And that makes me sad. So I ultimately gave this one 3.5 to 4 stars. It's more 3.5. I feel like I had more problems with it, especially at the end, but I felt like the first like third was like a decent 4-star, and then it just kind of like started dropping things, and just, you've heard how I feel about it, and I'm just sad because I want to be more sad. So comment down below and let me know what you thought of ACOWAR. I've heard a lot of polarizing opinions. Like, some people like really hated it and some people really loved it. So let me know what you think down below. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!